Let me start with a question that might make you a little uncomfortable. If your heart was going to fail tonight, would you even know it was coming? Most people picture a heart attack as loud, chest clutching, left arm going numb, someone collapsing in a movie, sirens 2 minutes behind. That's the version we've all been trained to expect. Here's the version I've actually seen over and over for 20 years. Quiet. No warning, no dramatic pain. Someone goes to bed feeling completely fine and they simply don't wake up. Or they wake up in an ambulance with no memory of how they got there. Before you go, I have a quick challenge for you. If you found this video helpful, comment win. If you didn't, comment lose. I genuinely want to hear our honest opinion. And while you're there, tell me your name and your age. I read your comments and it helps me create videos that are more useful for people just like you. I'm Dr. Mike. I'm a fitness, nutrition, health cardiac surgeon. And after 2 decades of opening chests and holding hearts in my hands, I can tell you something that still unsettles me every time I say it out loud. The most dangerous hours for your heart aren't the stressful ones. They're the ones where you're doing absolutely nothing, lying in bed, asleep. And in almost every case I've seen, the danger wasn't random. It was set in motion hours earlier by something small, something forgettable, something that happened before the lights went out. Tonight, I'm walking you through 5 of those overlooked moments. 5 ordinary habits that quietly stack the odds against you while you sleep, and exactly what to do instead starting tonight. Stay with me until the end because I'm also going to tell you exactly what I say to my own patients in the recovery room, the conversation I wish every family had before they ever needed a surgeon. Here's something almost nobody thinks about. Your heart doesn't clock out when you fall asleep. It changes shifts. In a healthy body, nighttime is when blood pressure is supposed to drop, usually 10 to 20% below your daytime numbers. Your heart rate slows, your arteries loosen up. It's a nightly reset your body has been quietly performing since you were a kid. But somewhere past 60, that reset starts to glitch. Arteries get stiffer. The internal thermostat that regulates blood pressure gets less precise. Protective hormonal signals that used to kick in overnight start to fade. And the safety margin, the buffer that used to absorb small mistakes, gets thinner and thinner. During the day, your cardiovascular system has backup systems. It improvises. It compensates. At night, most of those backups go offline. You're running on a skeleton crew. That's the real reason why heart attacks and strokes cluster between midnight and 6 a.m. in people over 60. Not the stressful commute, not the argument at dinner, the quiet hours when nobody is watching, but your habits already did their damage hours before. So let's talk about those habits, starting with the one that catches almost every patient off guard. Habit number 1, the dinner nobody thinks twice about. Quick question. What time did you eat last night and what was on the plate? I ask every patient that. And for a lot of people over 60, the honest answer is somewhere around 8, 9, sometimes 10 p.m. A real meal, pasta, rice, meat, maybe something fried, followed by the couch, and then bed an hour or 2 later. I understand exactly how that happens. Long days, family schedules, decades of habit. But from where I stand, a heavy meal that late is one of the most underrated stresses you can put on your heart. Here's what's actually happening inside you. Digesting a large meal demands a huge sudden increase in blood flow. Your heart has to work harder to supply it, blood pressure climbs, and your triglycerides, the fat circulating in your blood, spikes sharply within 2 to 4 hours of eating. Now layer that on top of trying to fall asleep. Your body expects the evening to be a wind down. Instead, your heart is asked to digest a full dinner and shift into overnight recovery mode at the same time. 2 conflicting demands running simultaneously. In someone with any arterial stiffness, which is most of us by $60, that conflict has real consequences. Research consistently links eating within 2 to 3 hours of bedtime to higher nighttime blood pressure, more acid reflux, which can mimic or even trigger cardiac symptoms, and a higher rate of cardiovascular events overnight. The fix costs you nothing. Finish your main meal by 6 or 7 p.m. If you need something later, keep it light, protein and vegetables, not fried food and carbs. Be honest with yourself for a second. Does last night's dinner sound familiar? You'd be amazed how many of my patients say yes and never once connected it to their heart. Habit number 2, the pill you take at the wrong time. This next one I need you to actually sit with because it's where I've seen some of the most preventable damage happen. If you're over 60 and on blood pressure medication, and statistically more than 6 in 10 people your age are, the timing of that pill matters far more than most doctors ever explain. Normally, blood pressure follows a curve through the day. It rises in the morning, peaks in the afternoon, and dips at night. But a significant number of people over 60, especially those with hypertension, lose that nighttime dip entirely. Their pressure stays high or actually surges in the early morning hours. There's a name for this: nocturnal hypertension. Most people have never heard it, and it's dangerous in a way that daytime high blood pressure simply isn't. While you sleep, your arterial walls aren't braced the way they are when you're upright and alert. A pressure surge at 3 a.m. hits differently than the same surge at 3 p.m. It's more likely to rupture a fragile plaque inside a coronary artery, more likely to trigger a clot, more likely to end up as a call I have to make to a family at dawn. If you only take your blood pressure medication in the morning, it may have worn off exactly when you need it most. If you occasionally forget it, you could be unprotected during the most vulnerable stretch of your entire day. So here's your homework, and it takes 2 minutes. Ask your doctor whether your medication should be taken in the evening instead of the morning. There's solid clinical evidence, including large trials on evening dosing, showing it can meaningfully reduce cardiovascular risk overnight. This isn't a minor tweak. It might be the single most important 2-minute conversation you have with your doctor this year. Habit number 3, the snoring everyone laughs about. Think of someone in your life who snores: a spouse, a parent, maybe you, if anyone's honest enough to tell you. Most people treat that sound as background noise, something to joke about, something to elbow someone over. I treat it as a warning sign until proven otherwise. After 20 years, I mean that literally. Sleep apnea is one of the most underdiagnosed conditions I see in patients over 60. Estimates suggest more than 30% of older adults have some form of it, and the overwhelming majority have no idea. They have no clue what it's doing to their heart night after night while they sleep right through it. Here's what an apnea episode actually looks like from the inside. Breathing stops, 10 seconds, 40 seconds, sometimes longer, possibly dozens of times an hour. Each time, oxygen levels drop sharply. The brain registers a crisis and fires off a full stress response: adrenaline, cortisol, a sudden spike in heart rate and blood pressure. The heart jolts awake while the rest of the body stays asleep. Now multiply that by 30, 40, 50 times in a single night, year after year. The numbers are hard to ignore. Sleep apnea is associated with roughly triple the risk of heart attack. It's strongly linked to atrial fibrillation, which dramatically raises stroke risk on its own. And it accelerates the stiffening of arterial walls over time, all while the person sleeps through the entire process. Loud snoring is one clue, but not the only one. Watch for morning headaches, exhaustion even after a full night's sleep, frequent nighttime bathroom trips, waking with a dry mouth, or a sensation of choking. If any of that sounds like you or someone you love, talk to your doctor about a sleep study. Here's exactly what I tell patients. If you snore heavily, you're over 60, and you have any history of heart disease or stroke, getting checked for sleep apnea isn't optional. It's part of taking your heart seriously, full stop. Treatment usually means a CPAP machine, which I'll admit isn't glamorous, but the data behind it is remarkable. Patients who use it consistently show measurable drops in blood pressure, fewer episodes of atrial fibrillation, and meaningfully lower cardiac risk overall. One unglamorous device, enormous protection. Does anyone in your house snore? Has anyone ever told you that you stop breathing at night? Sit with that question for a second before you move on. Habit number 4, the water you're avoiding on purpose. This one is almost logical enough to sound like good advice, which is exactly why it slips past people. A lot of people over 60 deliberately cut back on fluids in the evening, sometimes as early as 4 p.m. The reasoning makes sense on the surface: fewer trips to the bathroom, less disrupted sleep, lower fall risk from getting up in the dark. I understand the logic completely, but going to bed even mildly dehydrated is a real cardiovascular risk that almost nobody talks about. When you're dehydrated, your blood gets thicker, more viscous, it doesn't move through your vessels as easily. For a younger cardiovascular system, that's a minor inconvenience. For someone over 60, already dealing with arterial stiffness or plaque, it's a different story entirely. Thick blood moving through narrowed arteries is more prone to clotting, and here's the timing problem. While you sleep, your heart rate naturally slows, and circulation is already sluggish. Combine that with thicker blood and hours of lying still, and you've got a real explanation for why so many strokes and heart attacks cluster in the early morning. The fix is almost embarrassingly simple. 1 full glass of water before bed. Not a large amount, around 8 ounces is enough to keep your blood from thickening unnecessarily overnight. Keep a second glass on your nightstand for that moment of mild thirst at 2 a.m., your body asking for exactly what your heart needs too. You don't have to trade good sleep for cardiovascular protection. You can have both. Habit number 5, the number on your thermostat. Here's the one that surprises almost every patient I mention it to because it sounds too small to matter. What temperature is your bedroom at night? Most people have never once thought about that number in terms of their heart. They think comfort, they think personal preference. But there's a specific range your cardiovascular system actually prefers, and outside of it, your heart quietly works harder than it needs to every single night. Too warm, above roughly 22 degrees Celsius / 72 degrees Fahrenheit, and your body spends the night trying to dissipate heat. Blood vessels dilate, heart rate stays elevated. You sweat more, which brings back the dehydration problem from a moment ago. And your sleep quality drops. You spend less time in the deep restorative stages where your heart does its best overnight recovery. Too cold. Below about 16, 17 degrees Celsius / 61, 63 degrees Fahrenheit causes the opposite problem. Blood vessels constrict to conserve core heat. Blood pressure rises. Your heart has to push against more resistance all night long. For anyone with existing coronary artery disease or hypertension, that's not a trivial nighttime spike. The sweet spot is 18.22 degrees Celsius or 65.72 degrees Fahrenheit. That range keeps you in what's called thermoneutral territory. Vessels relaxed, heart rate steady and low, sleep staying deep. One thermostat setting, real measurable protection. Putting it all together, the heart's safe. Evening routine. I know that's a lot to take in at once, so let's reframe it. These aren't 5 separate things to worry about. Together, they form one simple evening routine. 6-7 p.m., your main meal. Lean protein, vegetables, a moderate portion of carbs if you need them. Not a feast, not a fast. Just a real dinner at a civilized hour, giving your heart 3 to 4 hours to settle before sleep. 7 p.m., water and medication. If you haven't had the conversation with your doctor about evening dosing for blood pressure medication, this is your reminder. Take it seriously. 8-9 p.m., wind down. A gentle walk, some reading, a quiet conversation. Step away from bright screens. They suppress melatonin and keep your nervous system alert far longer than it should be before sleep. By 9 p.m., prep your room. Adjust the thermostat, crack a window if needed, set a glass of water on the nightstand. 90 seconds of effort. Real protection. By 10 p.m., lights out. And if you snore, or anyone's ever told you that you stop breathing at night, try sleeping on your side instead of your back. Back sleeping worsens airway obstruction significantly, and side sleeping can meaningfully reduce apnea episodes while you work toward a proper evaluation. Dinner by 7, water and pills by 7, calm until 9, room ready by 9, bed by 10, on your side. The routine works. That part isn't in question. The data backs every piece of it. The only real question is whether you'll actually follow it. Why I'm telling you this. I want to step out of content creator mode for a second and just talk to you as a surgeon. I've stood at an operating table at 3 a.m, holding a heart that stopped because of a clot that formed overnight in a narrowed artery. I've talked to families in waiting rooms at dawn who had no idea anything was wrong when they said goodnight a few hours earlier. I've read case notes on people who were planning their grandchild's birthday party the week before, and in case after case, the contributing factors were never mysterious. A late dinner, a skipped pill, a bedroom kept too warm, a body quietly running dry, an airway that had been silently struggling for years while everyone assumed the snoring was just snoring. These aren't rare, exotic risk factors. They're the background noise of millions of completely ordinary evenings. Evenings that add up, night after night, year after year, into an event that nobody saw coming because nobody knew where to look. Here's what 20 years in an operating room has taught me. Most of the hearts I've had to repair didn't fail because of bad luck. They failed because of a gap in information the patient simply never had. You have it now. Your 5-point action plan. No vague worry, just 5 concrete moves. 1. Finish your main meal by 7 p.m. No radical diet, just a reasonable dinner at a reasonable hour. 2. Ask your doctor about evening dosing for your blood pressure medication. 2 minutes, potentially the most important conversation of your year. 3. Get checked for sleep apnea if you snore heavily, wake up exhausted, or anyone's told you that you stop breathing at night, not optional past 60. 4. Drink a glass of water before bed and keep one on the nightstand. Don't let your blood thicken overnight to save yourself a bathroom trip. 5. Set your bedroom between 18.22 degrees Celsius, 65.72 degrees Fahrenheit. One number, real protection, costs you nothing. Now I want to ask you something directly. Answer honestly in the comments. Which of these 5 did you recognize in yourself? I'd bet at least 2 or 3 hit close to home. You're not alone in that. Most of my patients see themselves in this list too. The difference is you now know exactly what to do about it. If this helped you, send it to someone. A spouse, a sibling, a friend, someone over 60 who's never once connected their nightly habits to their heart. It might be the most useful thing you share all week. Your heart has been working for you without a single break every minute of every night for your entire life. Give it the conditions it needs to keep going. One last thing, and I mean this sincerely. Everything here is general information based on current research and my own clinical experience. It's not a substitute for your own doctor's guidance, especially before changing anything about your medication schedule. Please have that conversation with your physician. That's not a legal disclaimer. That's a surgeon who wants you watching this channel again in 10 years. Good night. Sleep well. Take care of that heart.